YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Tonight here with the breaking news, governors in multiple states at this hour warning millions of Americans of a catastrophic winter storm just now starting to hit. At least 17 states declaring states of emergency already tonight. Heavy snow, dangerous ice, freezing rain, and then life-threatening brutal cold moving in. More than 180 million people under alerts. The massive storm building in Texas and Oklahoma, stretching 2,000 miles across the south into the Carolinas and then up the coast into the Northeast. Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. In New York City, city officials tonight are preparing for up to a foot of snow. Authorities warning of dangerous driving even before the storm. Dashcam video showing a driver losing control, crashing on I-70 in Belmont County, Ohio. Philadelphia loading plows and sanders with salt tonight. The city declaring a snow emergency. Drivers urged to stay off the roads. It's going to be a dangerous mix of freezing rain, ice, and snow. Thousands of flights already canceled tonight right through tomorrow. They are expecting some airports to close down entirely for hours on Sunday. From New York to Texas tonight, a familiar scene playing out. Customers lining up at grocery stores. This image here in New York, stocking up on supplies tonight. Stores across the country now with bare shelves. Lee Goldberg standing by to time this out. The potential ice and snow totals depending on where you are, and we'll take you right through it. And ABC's Morgan Norwood leading us off tonight from Dallas, where the system is just getting started tonight.
Tonight, that powerful winter storm threatening more than half the country, set to slam millions with heavy snow and crippling ice. Authorities warning families to take this seriously, from New York all the way down to Texas. New York Governor Kathy Hochul tonight.
This is a very dangerous combination of heavy snow and extreme cold temperatures.
New York City bracing for what could be its biggest snowstorm in nearly 5 years, up to a foot possible. Epic lines at grocery stores. Parts of the South bracing for potentially catastrophic impacts, up to an inch of ice possible. Fears of more crashes like these in Belmont County, Ohio this week. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee sounding the alarm.
We all know that there is a very serious winter storm coming. Snow, sleet, ice, freezing rain. Very dangerous conditions.
In Texas, road crews out in force. And here in Dallas, brine trucks, sand, cones strategically placed under major overpasses so road crews can quickly respond as conditions worsen. Officials warning the ice could knock out power for days.
We're going to monitor all of the impacts to the electric grid.
Utility teams racing into the storm zone ahead of expected widespread power outages. And right after this storm, brutally cold temperatures sweeping in from the north across most of this country, expected to last for days. Our Alex Perez is in Chicago.
Here near Lake Michigan in Chicago, you can see the water is completely frozen over. The Midwest in a deep freeze. The feel-like temperature in some spots 30 to 40 below zero.
That brutal cold will soon spread across the country. And David, with this nearly 2,000-mile wide storm already developing, the rain is here in Dallas, and the big concern is temperatures plunge overnight. Everything, these roads, will turn to ice.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. As most of you have heard, and probably many of you will be affected by the blizzard that's supposedly hitting North America, known as Winter Storm Fern. And as you heard in that clip, the paranoia just keeps getting pumped out from the mainstream media. I mean, we've heard paranoia in the past. We've heard the COVID paranoia, which we've all obviously digested and realized that they cause really a psychosis in people's minds to get them to run to their local pharmacy to poison themselves. Well, the paranoia just gets funnier by the day as a 1-foot potential blizzard is making people run to the stores to buy propane, to do whatever they can to make sure they don't die from hypothermia. Now, hypothermia is obviously a very serious thing, and they're warning of people getting hypothermia, getting frostbite, dying and freezing in their homes, as we heard in Texas a few years ago. But what's hilarious about that is that nobody calls on the government to make sure homes are built with fireplaces, that homes have the ability, if there is an event where the power grid gets shut down, to be independent from the government, be able to keep yourself and your children warm. But obviously we know what their wicked agendas are. As you're seeing right now over in the UK, they're attempting to ban wood-burning stoves, wood-burning fireplaces, and log burners from people having them inside their homes. So they're pretty much saying, we'd rather, in the event of a massive blizzard and a power outage, have you die of hypothermia, because climate change is really the big initiative that we have to pay attention to. It's more dangerous 7,000 years from now from man-made climate problems that they're causing themselves through weather modification and geoengineering. Well, we'd rather your little infant child die in his crib because we won't allow you to have backup just in case the power does go out, like a wood-burning stove, because now all of a sudden in the history of mankind, a wood-burning stove is extremely dangerous to have. And of course, we know they all want us dead anyway, and the other thing that they want is to make sure that we're not independent of them, that we need to beg them for power. We need to beg them to take care of us, right? So let's start here. What we're seeing right now and what we've seen the last week. Now, I'm not in America anymore, and I haven't been for quite some time, but I've gotten dozens and dozens of pictures sent to me, and I've seen it all over social media, where people have been showing their skies completely covered in chemtrails for the last 5 days or so. They're waking up and they're just seeing more streaks than ever. They're not able to see the sun, even though the supposed weather predictions are showing them sunny days. Well, what they're getting is hazy days, and it's just going on and on and on. What a coincidence, right? That we're getting all these chemtrails right before this big blizzard. Well, of course, there's no such thing as coincidences in this world, just like there's no such thing as this being a coincidence that the government and the military had a document released in August of 1996. Let me repeat that. August of 1996. And what was it called? Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. And indeed, they do own the weather. And that's how they're able to come out with these reports days, weeks in advance of storms like this. And in fact, they're so good at predicting this, right? They know exactly where it's going to move. And don't tell me about the jet stream, because we've seen plenty of times where these storms don't follow the jet stream. And then they come out and say, well, climate change has affected the hurricane because the hurricane was moving west and then it was moving southeast, which we've always been told, well, the jet stream goes this way, so the storm's got to follow that. Well, not unless you're trying to hit a direct target like they did with Helene or Milton, some of these other man-made hurricanes. We clearly can see this is man-made. It is covering a vast amount of the United States. And of course, here's the other thing that's hilarious that tells you that this is obviously man-made. And there's plenty of things I'll show you, which you're going to go, wow, in a few minutes. But another big thing is that all of the mainstream media is showing you power outage risks. So they figured out what places are potentially going to lose power. So clearly we know that they're just going to flip a switch. They're telling us that all of these states are likely going to have power outages, power outage risk. It's on the Weather Channel. It's on local affiliate channels. It's in the national news on NBC and ABC, telling you, look, you're going to lose power in all these states. So stay warm, but remember, you can't have a wood-burning fireplace. That's not a good idea. We make sure we build these homes, these new homes, without generators, with natural gas, and without wood-burning stoves, so that when we shut the grid down, well, you might potentially die, but you'll beg us to turn it back on, right? They're gonna flip a switch clearly, and they already know what places are gonna lose power. How convenient, right? So we have all of these, articles, New York Times, storm poses big threats to the power grids across the U.S., why freezing rain has millions at risk of losing power. And this, again, is about the climate laws that are to come, just like COVID was. And remember, part of the climate laws will be rationing electricity. The more they can convince you and get you used to rationing electricity, well, it'll be the same thing as they got people used to wearing masks. And now we still see these complete brain-dead zombies walking around with masks on. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be alive, witnessing what we're witnessing and how deep this mind control actually goes. It's hard to even have sympathy for any of these actual people. So let's start here. We look at some of the maps, and you can see with the chem vapor, you can see that the ionospheric heaters, Nexrad, the elf waves, you could see all of it through these maps that are clearly visible. This is them injecting this and manipulating the ionosphere. And they don't just use the Nexrad towers. People get confused, like, okay, it's just Nexrad. Don't forget about these 5G towers that emit, they're like gigantic antennas, the 5G towers. Okay, they're not there to help you download a Ricky Martin song faster than you normally would have with 4G or 3G. They're massive, strong, powered antennas, just like we see on top of a lot of the buildings in cities, and nobody asks questions. They're giant antennas around us, and they have the ability to manipulate and control the weather. Now, the other thing that's going on that everybody should pay attention to, and when you see this clip, you might say, well, why do I need to pay attention to that? I don't understand what that has to do with Nexrad or Haarp or, an actual blizzard coming through. Well, pay attention to this, and I'll explain what was going on around North America days leading up to this ice storm / snowstorm / whatever you might actually get, freezing rain that is going to cost people. Potentially, it's going to cost lives. We're probably going to see large accumulations, roofs collapse, obviously danger on the highways, hypothermia, all of it. But look at what occurred. And if you've watched my channel the last couple of years, if you caught up with me among my 80 channels or so, because I know a lot of you thought I was gone for 6 years, I never left. Okay, on all my other channels, I've been talking about this heavily. Anytime there's a storm around, we're seeing this. Pay attention.
Something else beautiful you can see for free in the sky. Number one, the Empire in MLK Day colors, and also potentially the Northern Lights tonight. Our temperature's at 30. It feels like 22. That's just the beginning of the cold that's coming in. But we also had a big punch of solar radiation that came in, 20 times the normal magnetism hitting our magnetic field. Unfortunately, it's not going to make things warmer, but it will interact with our atmosphere and could make some brilliant colors tonight. Typically, you see those at the poles, the aurora borealis. But when you get a powerful storm like this one, it can come down to the mid-latitudes, and we get to see them. Might even go down into the southern part of the United States. It's so strong.
Millions looking to the skies tonight for another sighting of the aurora borealis, also known as the Northern Lights.
And this is not the first time recently they've been visible in parts of Colorado. You remember these photos from our viewers back in November. Fox 31 Shaw Turner just east of Greeley tonight, waiting for the lights to show up. How's it looking out there tonight, Shaw?
Well, I'll tell you, it's 19, 20 degrees, but well worth it to be out here. Now, you want to go to a place where it's really dark to spot the lights. So to do the live shot, we stepped into the light a little bit, but we're watching, we're waiting. Scientists say between 10 and 2 a.m., that's your best shot. The Northern Lights showed up in November. Now Colorado residents are looking to the skies with hope and anticipation again.
Just something different that I've never seen before.
They're really pretty, and it was on my bucket list, but I always thought I'd have to go to Iceland or something to see it.
The aurora borealis usually makes itself known in Colorado between September and April. Do you understand what the aurora borealis is?
No, I don't.
The phenomenon is created by a geomagnetic storm. The best locations for seeing the lights typically include Fort Collins and the Pikes Peak region, but this week, experts say the northeastern part of Colorado is also a key spot.
Very nice, very nice. I've never seen them before, so I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I can stay up.
So how convenient. Just January 21st, January 22nd, all of a sudden we had northern lights all around America, reaching as far down as Florida. And of course, the articles talk about the northern lights. They're offering gorgeous views, and the sheeple don't blink, as you heard in that clip. I thought I'd have to go to Greenland or Iceland or Alaska to see the northern lights. This is great. Now I could see them in my own state. I could see them in Colorado. I could see them in Florida. And none of these sheeple actually think for 1 second as to why. It used to be you had to go to Alaska to see these things, right? And of course, they've had to explain away, because of people like myself pointing this out, why the northern lights have been so visible across the world lately. Ever since those 5G towers and more NextRad towers have gone up. But the answer is real simple if you haven't heard, okay? Haarp experiments cause artificial auroras. So when they turn on the Haarp machine, artificial auroras occur. Now look at the key word here, artificial, fake, because they're shooting frequencies into the ionosphere, and it's causing this to happen in the sky. So when we see big storms like this, we're going to see artificial auroras. Now, if they're coming off the Gulf Coast, you're likely not going to see it. But if they're happening in the middle of North America, days before it, you're likely to hear stories like this over and over. And look at the articles out there. Why scientists use these radio transmitters to create artificial auroras. Sending radio pulses into the upper atmosphere can create splotches of red and green light. Oh, kind of like the Aurora Borealis, or the Northern Lights as they're called. But really now they're pretty much the everywhere lights. Article after article after article out there over the years, them expecting you not to catch on, but telling you that there's going to be fake artificial auroras because the Haarp machine is on, right? And then, of course, they had to do stuff like Haarp researchers want you to know they're just normal Alaskans doing really cool science, because people like us have been exposing what they actually do. They have these a-holes like this guy wearing the tinfoil hat. I am Haarp holding this thing up. I mean, this is him holding this up in front of me would have been a guaranteed wham right to the face. I don't care how old this fart is. The fact that these people are so sick and psychotic that they do this to mankind, they have a special place in hell, and that's bent over with Lucifer directly inside their rectums. But anyway, why scientists use these radio transmitters to create artificial auroras, right? All this stuff out there, and they've constantly tried to foo-foo it away, expecting you not only to realize, or not realize, I should say, that the Haarp machine is causing artificial auroras. In fact, nobody even knows if Aurora Borealis are real in the first place. We've only known what we grew up hearing. Oh, the Northern Lights. That's why people go to Alaska, because the Northern Lights are there. What a coincidence that that's directly where Haarp was and is. Until, of course, they've put these antennas up all around the U.S., and as their document, Weather as a Force Multiplier, Controlling the Weather by 2025 says, they had planned on controlling the weather by 2025. So they got all these towers in place, including the 5G towers and the NextRad towers, right? Does anyone remember when NOAA, and again, NOAA is the parent organization, while NextRad is one of the tool technologies it operates. So you have NOAA, who operates the NextRad towers. Many people out fact-checking, debunking weather modification claims. No one creates or steers hurricanes. The technology does not exist. Oh, yeah? Well, I'll show you momentarily, as I have in the past. John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson were their main goals in government back in the 50s, 60s, controlling the weather. Right? Did it in Vietnam, continue to do it in Dubai, making it rain, causing floods when they feel like it, but then telling you there's droughts, the farmers are going to lose their crops, because they don't want you to think twice, and they don't expect you to think anything out. And the second you do, they expect you to just snap back into your psychosis of believing them over people such as myself. And when they put this out, of course, NOAA put this out because if you dig through their website, which is now scrubbed, at the time, people found this weather modification project reports, and there are hundreds of actual experiments that they've run that have to do with weather modification. So what's weather modification? Well, it means they're modifying the weather, right? And that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. And they put all these experiments out there because they think that mankind is so stupid that they can put it out there. And they're right. They're right, because we still have people who refuse to believe this. You have Democrat mainly people. Oh, this is ridiculous. These tinfoil hat wearers, conspiracy theory, because they think that we're all lumped in with conservatives. And the fact of the matter is, we all should be working together. All of mankind should be thinking freely, working together out of the hive mind, realizing that there's a small group of wicked people that pretend to be in these two parties to keep us divided, who are killing us with so many different things, from 5G towers to chemicals in our food, chemicals in our water, to weather modification, which is really one of their most dangerous weapons that they deploy now, right? And of course, after people were getting, catching on to NOAA, NextRad videos such as my own that I had made. They get 50,000 views. Well, what happens? Oh, they come out with this. A militarized conspiracy theorist group believes radars are weather weapons and is trying to destroy them because they're trying to get the public to think we're all lunatics. Oh, my goodness. Showing you proof on their own website after they deny that they're involved in weather modification, and then showing you, well, they claim it. It says it right on their website. That's directly from their website. What do? Okay, well, what can we do to make people think those people are nuts? Oh, we'll put stuff out that there are militia groups that think radars are weather weapons, and all these poor employees that know they're in danger. They're in danger. The towers explode. They're in danger that people might come after them, right? Meanwhile, these are all the patents for weather modification that are playing on your screen. These are just some, really, of the weather modification things that are out there. A lot of them you'll see have to do with hurricane control and but it's more than hurricanes. They can do this obviously with snow, because when you do it and it's 20 degrees out, it's 10 degrees out, you're going to get freezing rain in a lot of places, which is going to cause power outages. Freezing rain in some ways is more dangerous than getting an actual foot of snow, especially if you get snow and then freezing rain on top of it. A lot of the power lines will go down. But these are all government documents, right? You can look them up yourself. So you can just take one of those numbers and look it up. This goes back how far? Well, we're looking at the 1918. Oh, 1891 was even in the beginning, 1905. It just keeps going and going and going until, of course, we get to 2025 when they're actually going to really unleash it. Now, they've been testing it. They've done things like Katrina that they've gotten away with in the past. But really, if you start looking at some of the stuff, it's really clear to see. When we hear about the Aurora Borealis being, oh, it's radio frequencies from Haarp are causing this in the sky. Well, it's amazing that this appears over and over and over again now all around the world ever since they put more NextRad towers and more 5G towers up. That all of a sudden people are seeing it in Florida. Next thing you're seeing it, oh my God, South America. And everyone just goes, whoa, the northern lights are coming tonight. And then they give you some bull crap on the news. Oh, well, it's got something to do with the magnetic field and the coronal mass ejection. They could eject it right up their ass for all I care. Excuse my French, because I've had enough of these psychopaths. That's where they can inject it, because it's nothing but their made-up science. Remember, these people talk about how they are the science. They own the science, right?
We partnered with Google, for example. If you Google climate change, you will, at the top of your search, you will get all kinds of UN resources. We started this partnership when we were shocked to see that when we Googled climate change, we were getting incredibly distorted information right at the top. So we're becoming much more proactive. We own the science, and we think that the world should know it. We own the science, and we think that the world, should know it.
Right, they own the science. You know what else they own? They own the weather, because they've convinced people that their weather towers can predict the weather when they're giving you a blueprint of the weather and where it's going to go. Because if people noticed all these towers and things up, they'd say, what is the purpose of these things? What are these things doing here? And they say, oh, well, they're up all over the place because this is how we tell you in advance what kind of weather you're going to get. Oh, right. I thought you couldn't predict the weather. I thought you couldn't control the weather. Well, by showing you in advance that you're going to have a storm in 5 days, these suckers believe, oh, good. They're letting us know they're such a help to all of us. We could run to Home Depot and get salt and get more shovels and be prepared for it, right? Instead of going, how do they know where the weather's going and how it's going to turn? In some of these cases, which are hilarious, right? I mean, think about some of the stories I've covered in the past, right? Even the beginning of this year, last year, March 2025, unusually powerful March storm threatens to create a blizzard, a tornado, and fires as it crosses the U.S. And it took this bizarre pattern as well. And none of these people blinked. Huh? A blizzard with tornadoes and fire? Isn't that an oxymoron? If there's going to be a blizzard, it's going to be cold. Oh, but there's going to be fire tornadoes inside of the blizzard. What? It's like a D-level movie, but they know these people are so deep under mind control that they'll never snap out of it. Now, here's some clips again that I've showed in the past where these people admit to controlling the weather, what they do at Haarp, all just huge coincidences. They cause conspiracy theorists, as you see under my videos. They're like New World Order. They'll tag it. New World Order is a conspiracy theory, right? Oh, but you got Carney talking about a New World Order being formed, Trump talking about a New World Order, George Bush talking about a New World Order, but it's a conspiracy theory, right? They come out in the open and they go, the old order is dead. The New World Order is beginning. And then when we talk about the New World Order, they put Wikipedia under it that pretty much says, oh, these people are conspiracy nuts. Oh, right, because we're actually pointing out these people saying these things. It's incredible. Well, here are some of these people, including former presidents, talking about controlling the weather.
We shall propose further cooperative efforts between all the nations in weather prediction and eventually in weather control.
It lays the predicate foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive, and as it turns out, the cleanest. That cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you. It's raining. NASA's playing God. It's making its own weather.
Project Cirrus is the first official attempt to modify a hurricane. It was run by General Electric with the support of the U.S. military. The official theory was that by changing the temperature outside the eye wall of a hurricane, which they did by seeding the clouds with various compounds such as silver iodide, a decrease in strong winds will result. On October 13th, 1947, Project Cirrus targeted a hurricane heading out to sea. Approximately 180 pounds of dry ice was dropped into the clouds. The crew then reported a pronounced modification of the cloud deck, and the hurricane abruptly changed direction and made landfall near Savannah, Georgia. The public blamed the government. Irving Langmuir, who pioneered General Electric's atmospheric research department and admitted that the project was about learning how to weaponize the weather, also claimed the reversal of the hurricane had been caused by Project Cirrus. But the government denied it for 12 years.
Another example is the array of technologies, often referred to collectively as geoengineering, that potentially could help reverse the warming effects of global climate change. One that has gained my personal attention is stratospheric aerosol injection, or SAI, a method of seeding the stratosphere with particles that can help reflect the sun's heat in much the same way that volcanic eruptions do. An SAI program could limit global temperature increases, reducing some risks associated with higher temperatures and providing the world economy additional time to transition from fossil fuels. This process is also relatively inexpensive. The National Research Council estimates that a fully deployed SAI program would cost about $10 billion yearly. As promising as it may be, moving forward on SAI would also raise a number of challenges for our government and for the international community. On the technical side, greenhouse gas emission reductions would still have to accompany SAI to address other climate change effects, such as ocean acidification, because SAI alone would not remove greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. Others might seize on SAI's benefits and back away from their commitment to carbon dioxide reductions. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations. On the geopolitical side, the technology's potential to alter weather patterns and benefit certain regions of the world at the expense of other regions could trigger sharp opposition by some nations.
So what we have here, according to the Senate and Congress and other people, are folks that will look you straight in the face and say, well, the idea of weather control, creation of earthquakes electronically and all of that's absolutely ridiculous, Mr. Fletcher, or anyone else that might ask it. However, we find out that our nation 20 years ago actually went into an entire convention that said, now that we can do it, we promise that we won't use it against other countries. Well, unfortunately, that promise does not include using it against ourselves here in the United States. So, again, when Senator Cole had asked me what it was that I meant, inferring that the New World Order persons will utilize it as a weapon against us, that was what I meant. A friend of mine said there's patents on that equipment. And as you can see here, he's absolutely right. These are the paperwork of the actual patents on the electronic means by which waves or rays, if you will, can be utilized to block, stop, move, alter, change the weather. It includes creating storms, expanding them, and even generating ELF, low-frequency vibrations that actually can move Earth in the ground itself and possibly generate the possibility of earthquakes. But the very equipment that's being used presently, covertly, secretly, in a multitude of outrageous experiments and programs right now.
When you hear the name Bill Gates, you probably think Microsoft founder, but now the billionaire may be known as the hurricane tamer. Gates is listed as one of 13 inventors on a patent filed for hurricane prevention methods. Hurricanes gain strength from condensation driven by warm surface water, which leads to greater wind speeds. Gates and his team plan to use a fleet of ships to cool warm surface water by mixing it with colder water from greater depths. They hope this will sap energy from growing storms, leading to weaker, less devastating hurricanes. The patent, which isn't expected to be approved for another 18 months, was submitted by CREET LLC, a sub-entity of an Intellectual Ventures and an Invention Acquisition and Development firm.
First time I visited Haarp, I didn't even know what it was. I went to Haarp as part of a physics club, the Society of Physics Students. I was a student here at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and Haarp at the time held an annual open house event where the public could tour the facility and talk to the scientists.
Haarp is a facility to study the ionosphere, region 60 miles out into space. And that's a region where there's not much density. The air is very thin, mostly plasma, which means electrons and ions.
When I saw this facility and saw how unique and interesting it was, and so when I decided to do my PhD thesis research using the Haarp facility itself. Haarp stands for the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
The federal government spent about $300 million. It's the most exquisite of its kind in the world. It's currently owned and operated by the Air Force Research Lab. And they have other priorities. They've done some tests over the years. Now they want to go do other things. So it's become a bit of an orphan sitting down there in Kokona. The U.S. has the lead in the world in this area. It would be a shame to give that up. The other facilities aren't nearly as flexible or as powerful. And Haarp can do science that the other two can't. There's a chart that shows, it compares all the heaters, including air receiver. You can see that it's quite a bit more powerful and more flexible.
It's an instrument that allows us to make small changes to the ionosphere, and then we can measure the response of the ionosphere and the upper atmosphere to the changes that Haarp is making. Scientists have categorized the various layers of the atmosphere. Most of the weather that we experience occurs in the troposphere. When we fly in commercial aircraft, we're generally flying at the top of the troposphere. Above that is the stratosphere, and above that is the mesosphere, and above that is the thermosphere. And the ionosphere is basically part of the thermosphere, which extends from about 80 to 100 kilometers altitude all the way up to about 1,000 kilometers altitude. And so the ionosphere is generally what we refer to as the partially ionized portion of the thermosphere. It's too high for weather balloons and it's too low for many satellites. And sure, we can launch rockets through the ionosphere too, as we do at Poker Flat, but those are very fast but expensive experiments. The reason why we care about the ionosphere, particularly for radio communication, is that radio waves, when traveling through free space, behave differently when they travel through a region of charged particles or plasma. The ionosphere is basically a partially ionized plasma, and so one of the things that can happen to radio waves that travel through a plasma is that they can be bent, their polarization can change, they can be absorbed. And since so much of our lives is really dependent on radio communication, either communicating to satellites or for navigation with GPS, which is also communicating with satellites essentially, or over-the-horizon communication or over-the-horizon radar, it's really important for us to understand how radio waves are affected by the ionosphere, and in some cases how radio waves affect the ionosphere in the case of Haarp or other powerful radio transmitters.
A lot of us realize how important it is, how powerful, how significant the facility is. So we're trying to figure out ways to keep it alive as an active scientific tool.
Why would it be beneficial? I can't speak for the applications, but it's a mystery to solve. We can think of the ionosphere as a natural plasma laboratory, the conditions of which are difficult to replicate in an actual physical laboratory. And so this is just another way of learning about the world around us. Why would it be beneficial? I can't speak for the applications, but it's a mystery to solve.
So you can even hear the guy at the end. He doesn't even know. He's like, I was up at Haarp for all this time. Honestly, nobody knows what they actually do. Oh, right, this government operation up there that shoots frequencies into the sky, very high frequency waves that reflect off the firmament. Oh, yeah, no, we don't know what they do. So what are you doing there? What were you doing the whole time? Oh, I was just learning from learning what? You learn nothing because you don't know what they're doing, or because you're not going to tell people, well, we're controlling the weather because there might be a mutiny on your hand, right? I mean, it's an utter joke. So obviously, I'm not affected by any of this stuff personally that's going on, but I'm keeping an eye on it. I pray for everybody out there who is affected. Obviously, I don't want anyone out there to panic because it's laughable that a foot of snow is now the end of the world. I mean, I remember growing up, you'd get a foot of snow once in a while. It really wasn't that big of a deal. In fact, when the power went out for 2 days, as long as you had a fireplace or something that could stay warm, it was kind of fun not to have electricity. You play some board games with your parents, or play cards, or just do something with candlelight, right? That's another thing they're warning about. Don't use candles. Don't use candles. It provides heat and light. They're like, don't use candles, whatever you do. Why, my house can explode if I put some candles on? I mean, this is how paranoid they've made people, where they're like, well, the news said not to use candles. All right, because you can generate warmth from the candles, and you can see, right? What are you telling people back in the 1800s? Don't use candles, use a flashlight. Well, we don't even know what a flashlight is. Well, if you use a candle, your house might burn to the ground because somebody might knock it over. And these people are just like, right, I'm not going to use a candle because I'm so paranoid. I'm afraid to take a dump. I'm afraid to take a leak. I'm afraid to go to my mailbox because I might get a common cough and have to wear a mask and go to the hospital with COVID. It's really, really bad out there. So I doubt that this is as bad as they claim, because we all know it's never as bad as they claim. The freezing rain and the ice is obviously the threat to causing power outages and, driving in it and things like that, or older people slipping and falling on the ice. But really, it's on the people who don't have these things in their home. And you might say, well, they don't have the money to do, they don't have the money to put in a fire. Every home should have a fireplace. It should be like 101 requirement. They used to, in the old days, every house had a fireplace because it was, you can have a fireplace to stay warm. You don't have to rely on, the government and the energy prices. And besides, what if the power goes out? What if something goes wrong? You need to have heat in the wintertime to stay warm, or you could die of hypothermia, right? So people who don't have it, you should be thinking twice about it. Wood-burning stove. But again, they don't want you to have these things because they want you fully dependent on them. That's what Big Brother is. Be fully dependent on us. Don't be independent. Don't think independently. And don't try to save your own family or yourself from these storms. Just, wrap yourself in a blanket and have the shakes for a couple of days and hope that we turn the power back on, because we're the ones flipping the switch, because we already told you could expect power outages from a few inches of snow in the south. And then they claim it's going to be 18 inches up in the north. But there's states that get 18 inches all the time. Montana gets big amounts of snow. Wyoming, they're pretty much covered in snow. Vermont. These are places that are always covered in snow. You don't hear them running around. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a foot of snow this week. It's like commonplace. Oh, okay, well, I'll make sure my fridge is stocked. No big deal. I could stay home. I got a fireplace in case the power goes out. But around the rest of America, people are crapping their pants, don't know what to actually do because the media is making them do. The media is going, oh boy, you're in big trouble, right? Yeah, we're in big trouble because of man-made weather modification. All the chemtrails leading up to the big blizzard, right? You could obviously see, as I showed you, the graph of the ionosphere being heated up because everything was getting turned on, which is what all those streaks were that you saw over North America, which just conveniently is following the same, exactly where this storm is going. And the Aurora Borealis, right? Happen to have the northern lights days in advance. And of course, we know the northern lights are when Haarp is turned on. And it causes fake fake Aurora Borealis. Sometimes it's hard to say when you're speaking this fast. But this is the world we live in, folks. The government trying to murder you and ruin your life with weather. Because remember, the climate laws are going to be just like COVID. Instead of quarantine, stay home because you're the carbon emission we're trying to prevent. Ration your electricity. Don't leave the house unless we tell you. You got a curfew when you can go out. That's the world they're trying to build. And they're going to do a lot of it through weather modification in the future. And that includes masks. Because they're going to say, look, you emit carbon when you leave your house. You're going to have to wear a mask just to go out for 1 hour a week, right? That's what these psychopaths are trying to do. So you can guarantee there will be power outages because they'll flip the switch. I pray for people out there to stay safe and obviously stay warm. I thank you again for listening. God bless all of you and your families as always.